This is the GPL Podcast from GopherPuckLive.com. This podcast is sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at FirstClassMortgage.com. Now let's start the show with your hosts, Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL Podcast, episode number 199. Almost at 200 Vigs. We're almost there.
We are getting there. This season is well underway now.
It is. And now making his 10th appearance on the GPL Podcast, now taking the lead over our good friend Frank Mazzacco, is Mr. Todd Milewski, and there he is. Todd, how you doing, man? You are now number one.
I'm feeling much better now that I know that I'm back above my buddy Frank Mazzacco, which is probably not at all deserved from somebody who lives on this side of the border. But
well, once we started doing all this and we got you on the podcast, it only made sense to have you on every time we played the Badgers. So you caught up real quick.
I guess I did, yeah. And and you guys know I always appreciate you having me on. And
well, we love having you on.
Much love coming from this side. So,
well, I don't know. All I see is better dead than red in the chat and all the good stuff from our viewers right now. So, oh well, that's what the border battle's about.
That's right.
It's about hate.
People care. I mean, and we'll take all of that we can get right now around Big Ten hockey, right?
Well, let me tell you, Todd. I would say that I think the rest of the Big Ten appreciates the Badgers going in to Yost last weekend and getting a split. I mean, Michigan's not going to run away with it now,
right? And it didn't look especially promising for that after Thursday night when the Badgers can't score again. They're stuck on, after that night, 10 goals through 7 games. And it's, but they did exactly what they had to do on Friday and put the pressure on and get a lead. And that's going to have to be their formula. Last year was, just throw Caulfield and Holloway and Weissbach and the power play out there whenever you can and get a couple goals off of that. And obviously a lot different this year.
Well, Caulfield just got sent down. Maybe he can just come right back to the Badgers. I mean, you take him. He's got eligibility.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Those minor – everything's changed now, right? The whole, you've signed, you've played pro. All these rules are changing. So, hey, yeah, just
it's basically like an NIL deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you beat the vaunted, Wolverines. You guys had a good. You guys, like you said, you didn't play that well that first night.
I didn't beat anyone. I was sitting.
Well, you know what I mean. I'm just. Mr. Mo came in. He did pretty. He kept you. He kept that game close Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they probably that could have been 6 or 7, nothing. And yeah, I thought he played really well. And he has for the most part. There was a one clunker for him where he got pulled. But all in all, he's kind of like what we've seen. I mean, he's pretty good. He's maybe not great, but he's good enough to keep you in a lot of games.
He kind of reminds me of a few of the Badger goalies we've seen the last couple of years. Like when they're on, they're playing pretty well, but you just don't know what to expect with them consistently from night to night. And maybe as Mo gets more work, he'll start to get more comfortable with his role and playing that. But we kind of saw that in Minnesota with him from times. He'd come in after not playing for a while. He'd have kind of a softie get in, and then all of a sudden he'd get sharp after that. And I think that got Bob a little frustrated. He's like,
yeah, but wasn't some of that also too, Vigs? A lot of times he was letting in the first shot.
Right. And that's
just
what really
tough on everybody.
Bob.
Yeah.
Yep. And so he'd recover after that, but Bob would always make some sort of comment, which I don't see a lot of coaches do when they go after their goalie, who would say, if you're pining so much to get in the game, when you get your chance, you got to take advantage of it. And I have not heard many coaches go after their goalies like that from time to time. But Bob's a little fiery this year. So
a little.
That's what he's bringing.
He's definitely fiery. On the flip side, Viggs, the Gophers ended up sweeping Notre Dame. It got a little interesting Saturday evening. Gophers take the lead, and all of a sudden Notre Dame right back ties the game within 29 seconds, something like that. But then Brodzinski comes through in the end and gets that nice goal just kind of off the inside of the goalie's chest, his arm, between his arm. They get the sweep and they lead the Big Ten, and really that's the important thing at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they'll take the 2 wins as points in their pocket and just enjoy that. The coach is looking for more, though. He was probably not very happy after Saturday. I think after Friday, he's a little more pleased. They played a little bit more complete game on Friday. They had kind of a slow start, but their goalie, Jack LaFontaine, had a real strong weekend, especially during the first periods of both games. Gave his team a chance to find their legs, made saves when he had to. And then the teams produced enough offense. I think Minnesota right now has enough skill in their lineup where, they're going to score 3+ goals most nights they're on, competition. So that's what you're expecting out of them. Brodzinski, I don't know if he's like a full 60-minute type player right now, but he's a guy who can shoot the puck and find the net. And that's something that the Gophers need right now. Bob's very critical of the forwards missing the net, and he called them the worst shooting team on the planet after Saturday's game. Coach is a little frustrated after a sweep.
Has he watched the team that I cover?
He doesn't do that until Wednesday, Todd.
Yeah,
so,
I know. Okay.
He waits to give any scouting reports until it's too late to talk to the media. But I did do a little deep dive on some of the stats, and I looked, in terms of shots that are missing the net. The Gophers are 5th in the nation right now in shots that are missing the net. I think it's like 15 a game.
That's pretty consistent with the last 20 years of Viggs.
Yeah, they're just trying to find it, and the percentage is about the same. They're about 5th in percentage too. They're missing about 25% of the shots that they're taking. They're just missing the net. And so that's a lot of possession that Minnesota is just giving away. And I know that they're working on it in practice. They are working on avoiding shot blockers. They're working on putting pucks on net. That's a big message from the coaching staff. So we'll see if they respond.
And what did the Badgers do to finally get some offense going on Friday, Todd? I mean, boy, when they got shut out Thursday, I'm like, oh boy, it's not good.
Yeah, on Thursday they really only had a handful of chances from in front of the net, and that was different on Friday. They were, even if they weren't shooting from right there, they had the traffic there, and they were making things more difficult on Portillo, which I think anytime you're in a scoring funk, that's what coaches are going to say, right? Go to the net, get some dirty goals, do whatever you have to do. Don't let the goalie see the first shot. So it's kind of went on the standard thing, and that's kind of what they have to do. They don't have the pure scoring talent that they did last year. Obviously, they have some guys who can score, but they've all been a little snake bit early in the season. So I think this is one of those things that they're not as bad as a team that through 7 games had scored 10 goals. So maybe you start regressing to the mean, or not regressing, but the other way, going up to the mean in that case.
You can go up or down, Todd.
Yes. Yeah. So I think we're going to see them start to even out at some point. But yeah, it was, they got a really good bounce on the first. Let me go through the goals. The first goal went off the player's tape, of end of his stick, and rolled in the net. Even though it tried to make a move and it still went in. So, okay. Second, Tark Baker went in on a forecheck, and the Michigan player had fallen at the top of the crease and tried to clear the puck, hit Baker in the stomach and fell at his stick, and he tapped it in. And the third one, I'm blanking. Oh, it's just kind of a scramble. It comes hard off the backboards, back out, and gets tapped out to Max Johnson, and he knocks it in.
But what I like about that, Todd, is that players are there. They are willing to get the garbage goals. That's one thing I think Minnesota's been lacking for a long time, Viggs, is the willingness to just get the puck on net and get that garbage goal.
Yeah, another player that got called out by the coach this last weekend was Sammy Walker. Bonsko said, Walker's a guy that's a culprit of going by the net and looping and circling. On the last goal on Saturday, he stopped in front of the net, faced the shooter, made it difficult on the goalie. There's a lot of players, they don't like to stop, because it's just extra work to get going again. I think for Minnesota to reach the goals it wants to reach, guys are going to have to play honest hockey, and it starts with the captains on down.
Definitely does. Here's Tim H. Viggs. Any updates on injured players? Kester, Lucius, and Crookshank.
Kester's trying to come back.
Yeah.
He's skating. It's an upper body injury, so it's not a leg thing. It's just, maybe they're a little nervous about contact with him and how that's going to be ready. And it's probably going to be a game time decision for him, when the trainer's evaluated on Friday, whether or not they want to clear him to play or not. With the other guys, I think it's a little bit longer term thing for them, as they heal up. I don't think it's something where they're going to be ready this weekend, but it's not going to be something that's going to hamper them long term either. They're kind of minor things, but they're just going to be cautious.
Our good friend Jared Klein, for you, Todd, what do you think the crowds will be like this weekend? Usually it's pretty good, but obviously we know both Minnesota and Wisconsin are not seeing crowds like they saw 10 years ago.
Right. And a Minnesota-Wisconsin series in February at the Kohl Center always draws well. You're going to get that 13,000 plus on the Saturday game. In October or in November, during football season, it's tougher. They're still probably going to be their best crowds of the season because there's not a lot of competition for that in terms of drawing visiting fans from other Big Ten schools. So I would say you're probably still talking about a 12,000 announced attendance on Saturday. In the 10 range on Friday, maybe 9,000. How many are actually in the building? Probably significantly less than that based on what we've seen in the past. And I mean, this year and, 2 years ago and before that.
I want to say the scan tickets for Saturday night against Notre Dame was 4,500. The number was told me. I just can't quite remember, but not good, Viggs. Not good.
Yeah, and it's not good. I thought the crowds were really good for St. Cloud. I thought they were really good for Minnesota Duluth. Not as good for Notre Dame. Again, Halloween weekend, not always popular with the fan base with all the other commitments they have going on. So that is definitely a factor. We'll see how the season goes. I think the product on the ice for the Big Ten this year is going to be exciting to see. And I'm looking forward to the games this weekend. Looks
like Todd's lost his microphones, his speakers, his headphones died on him, didn't they?
You all sound like robots right now, so I can't.
Oh, no.
I have to try and change this here. Forgive me.
Well, you sound normal to us, so that's good. So we're good there. But you can fix it.
You guys all sound good to me, too.
Yeah.
Now I got you back.
Okay. Well, you're a little soft now.
Oh, man.
Well, it's like your video Friday night when you were super soft. Or was that Thursday or whatever it was?
Can't win.
No, I can hear you. We can hear you. We just have to be really quiet.
Oh, that's all. I feel loud, but the rest of the family's sleeping around me here. So rooms around me. So.
That's the same for Viggs. He's got kids.
Yep, they're in bed tonight, so that's always good. We've got their vaccination appointments scheduled for next week, so things are just looking up around here.
Well, that's good. We're going to have to make the trip to Madison sometime, Viggs. But the thing is, do we want to go as fans or do we want to cover?
I'm hoping to cover when I go on the road. It's always been a lot of fun to go on a road trip and cover, going down to Mankato or going up to Duluth. It's always fun to find your way around a new building. When I went to Soldier Field, that was quite the adventure, trying to find the Don after the game. You're going through places you're not sure you're supposed to go through, and it's always a lot of fun.
There's plenty of room for you here if you want to show up to the press box.
It's been a little packed at Mariucci with these in-state games. There's a lot of people who who have been interested in seeing what the Gophers have so far this year. I think the expectations here are really high for Minnesota's team. I think they haven't quite met them yet. I know the forwards have been getting a lot of critique for missing the net, but it's also the defensemen who finally showed up against Notre Dame. The first couple of weekends, Bob was joking that their brains were in Dinkytown, and you could see that in their play too. They were just kind of all over the offensive zone, not being very careful. I think you looked at how they played against Notre Dame. That's the recipe for them having success going forward. I think they got points on 5 of the 7 goals, and it all came from just normal offense, which I think is a good sign for them. They weren't forcing things like they had been in the past.
Looks like we have a pretty good contingent heading over to Madison this weekend. Our boy Jared Klein, this is his 23rd year heading to Madison. Taking over the Red Shed Friday before the game. That's what they love to do. I haven't been there since Kessel. It's been a while.
That has been a while. Oh,
Jupe, no excuses for you.
Well, I want to say I went to Kessel, and I think I went the year after. And I think the year after is, I think they won that Saturday night, and it might have been Frazee kind of egging on the student section at the end of the game. But, well, here's a great question from John Doherty. Playing across state lines, best Scotty player to play for the Gophers? I'll give that one to you, Viggs. And the best, probably Kessel, but best Minnesotan to play for the Badgers, Todd. Let's go with you first, Todd.
Gophers, it's
all right.
Yeah,
Who
it's Kessel.
counts as a Minnesotan? Does Mark Johnson count as a Minnesotan? Born in Minneapolis.
I feel like you have to be born and you have to play your high school hockey.
Yeah, okay.
And he didn't, did he? Because he was already with Dad down in Madison.
Oh, yeah. He moved. I think they were 5 or 6 when he moved with his dad, his family.
Badger Bob was a Gopher, though, wasn't he?
And a North Dakota player, was he not? Didn't he play 1 year for North Dakota and 3 for Minnesota? It was something like that.
It was weird back then.
Yeah, yeah, no, right. It was who was counting. I don't think there were any. There was any oversight.
Best Minnesotan to play for the Badgers.
I definitely have mine picked. Best Minnesotan player to play for the Badgers.
What's that?
Ryan McDonough.
Oh,
he is a steady player.
Yeah,
made a name for himself with Creighton-Durham Hall, St. Paul kid. Did very well for Wisconsin. Has now gone on to a nice pro career. Stanley Cup cred.
You in terms of how they were in their college careers, you could put Derek Stepan in there too, couldn't you?
I think you probably could.
I mean, same team, but he had such a presence as a forward on that group in that 2010 team. Yeah, it's not a bad pick. I mean,
it definitely goes more one way than the other.
Yes, I think right. I mean, going back to my era of when I was in school, you had guys like Joe Bianchi and
Tim Krug was with him. I know that.
Yeah, Tom Gilbert. That's a pretty good.
All those Jefferson kids. Yeah,
one of your boys.
Yeah, I played soccer with Tim Krug as a kid, like 3rd and 4th grade soccer. Actually, I had him on my team a couple times. He was a big kid.
Always seemed like there's a little bit of a Hill Murray pipeline going east as well.
And Burnsville back in the old days too. Look at your assistant coach.
Yeah. He's and the Strobels, right? I mean, it's
quite the pipeline.
It is.
Starting with Badger Bob himself.
Sure.
We'll just go with it.
I was surprised to see Strobel commit to Minnesota a couple of years ago after all that drama. He had a great state tournament. Now he's in the BCHL.
That's a little controversial, though, too, isn't it, Viggs?
I don't know if it's controversial. I think he felt like it was a better fit for him at Minnesota than Wisconsin.
Well, I mean, it's controversial that he might not end up here. Some of the posts I saw this week was, hey, switching teams. Do you think he's still going to come?
So hard to tell with Bob and recruiting. He's very tight-lipped about everything around that. And he's got a lot of plates in the air to juggle. You got to figure out, 1, he wants to get older. 2, he's got to figure out who's going to come back. there are some players with some extra eligibility. And of course, now you have the transfer portal to deal with. And, I don't think transfer portal is something that Minnesota is going to be heavily involved in, but Cruikshank, he was a nice addition. He's going to miss this weekend. I know he had this one circled on his calendar because he was one of those players that, as signing day approached, he found out he didn't have the spot that he was expecting. And so I think he was looking for a little payback in Madison this weekend, but he'll miss it.
Yeah, we got all these nice rules, extra year of eligibility, transfer. You're not going to get younger that way, Viggs. And
I think you just have to be patient.
The premier programs aren't going to be able to get younger. The Badgers, the BCs, BUs, even North Dakotas. It's going to be tough to get old. I mean, you look at Mankato, North Dakota. Duluth. It's going to get tough.
You just have to have the right blend. You can't rush guys into roles where they're not ready, and you need to have veteran teams to support young players as they come in. I think Brock Besser going to North Dakota was probably a best scenario for him. He was a young player who wasn't going to be relied on to play tight defense. He was going to be able to go out and score goals, and he's a player that can push a team over the top. You want to have guys like that who can just make that jump and are supported. This year, Minnesota, they're trying to figure out how to get 5 new freshmen into the lineup. And I think you're seeing a little bit of a struggle as those players adjust to the college game because they're not being handed easy roles with veteran players. You've got guys like Huglin and Brose who are trying to, play regular minutes. Huglin trying to play center. Lucius, I think he's a player who's got a lot of talent, but he's just, he's being counted on to provide some scoring and shooting touch. And it's difficult, I think, for him to find a fit right now on the team. And I think he's pressing a little bit. So, these young players, it's not always going to be seamless when they're being counted on for big roles.
When you talk about the transfer portal and how you kind of can remake a team in patching maybe holes that you've found you've developed from, whether it's losing a player earlier than you thought or whatever. I've been thinking about this, that, the coaches that are good salesmen, in recruiting, maybe they're not the same people that are going to be the right salesman for this free agency kind of thing, because that's a different kind of thing. When you're selling a 17-year-old on something that's 2 years away, that's a lot different than when you're selling a 19, 20-year-old something that's right now. And I'm really curious to see.
And has already learned the system and how it actually works.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to be good at that as we go, 2, 3, 4, 5 years into this? That's going to be interesting to me how that shakes out. What coaches are going to be the best at that side of it?
Well, I think it was really interesting with Cruikshank because he's talked about how he picked where to go. The draw for him at Minnesota was, just tremendous facilities to finalize himself as a product for the NHL and tremendous competition in practice. He was looking for that team that was kind of not necessarily looking for a lot of turnover, but looking for someone to just fit in as a piece and be a heavy forward for them. He's obviously, I think, also going through some growing pains, figuring out how he fits in. But, that was the message to him and how he was sold on moving programs.
But in a lot of ways, if you're a team looking for a, top 6 left winger, or maybe even a bottom 6 left winger, and say, you can target someone specifically and say, look, we have a role for you on this team. You're going to be this guy next season, as opposed to, we think you're going to be a valuable forward for us 2 years down the road and maybe another year if we want you to stay in the USHL another year. Those are two different things that I think are going to require different kind of philosophies from what the coaches have to do.
It's going to be interesting. Definitely going to be interesting. For those of you listening live, we're putting up your questions. If you have more questions for Todd, Vigo, or myself, make sure you just send it on over to us and we'll try to get to it. But first, we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, Gopher hockey fans. Jerry Peters here with First Class Mortgage. With Veterans Day just around the corner, I want to take this time to express my gratitude to our military veterans and the families who support them. The VA loan program offers some of the best mortgage terms on the market today. Veterans can purchase homes with zero down payment and no monthly mortgage insurance. If you're a veteran who already has a VA loan, you may be eligible for a streamlined refinance to reduce your interest rate with limited documentation and no appraisal needed. Veterans can also use the equity in their homes to consolidate high interest rate credit cards or to finance home improvement projects. To hear more, call or text me today at 612-940-3291 or send me an email at jerry@firstclasscorp.com. First Class Mortgage's NMLS number is 322842. Mine is 480200. This is not an offer to lock into an interest rate under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
All right. Thank you, Jerry, for sponsoring us once again. All right. People with questions, start sending them to us. Got plenty to talk about tonight because it's Badger Week. We're heading down to Madison. Well, we are. The Gophers are heading down to Madison this week. And for some reason, Todd, they were practicing at Ritter, and you questioned it, and I questioned it.
I never heard the answer on that one. Yeah, so they start practicing at Ritter, 200 by 85, when they're going to play at Kohl Center, 200 by 97. When their normal rink is 200 by 100. Maybe there's something you're trying to establish in your game about, winning small areas, even if it's the rink is bigger, but
the corners maybe, Viggs?
I do think that Bob sometimes will have these battle practices where that's the emphasis. And so I think that's one reason why they'll go to the smaller rink is because he wants to see them compete in tight spaces. Obviously they moved back to Mariucci Arena this week for practices later in the week, but I think that's just something that Bob will do from time to time. He's very intentional, I think, about the theme of a practice, whether it's skating, whether it's battling, whether it's special teams, whether it's shooting, whether it's creativity. He'll design a practice where that is the focus, and that's what he wants to pin down on.
Well, we thought it was goofy.
I agree. Very goofy.
Is Jared the Mo? Jeez, I can read. Is Jared Moe the answer in net for Bucky? Apparently, Brever is looking out his window at his house right now. He's stalking Jared Moe's parents' house. Way to go, Eric. Ooh. Is he the answer, or is it going to think it's going to be pretty much a split deal most of the season until somebody kind of comes forward there, Todd?
Yeah, that's everything they've kind of hinted at, is that's the way it's going to go. It's going to be a lot like they had last season with Camro and Robbie Baydoun. If we see one of them, go off and do a lot better than the other one, yeah, I don't think there'd be an issue with going with that person, and that could be Jared Moe. I just don't know yet. I haven't seen enough from either one of them yet to say, yeah, this is a guy that should be playing back to back every weekend, getting 90% of the games or anything like that. It's it's not there yet. So if you've got two guys you like, which they do, why not keep going with it and see who gets hot? And if that ever actually happens.
Well, let me tell you, Viggs, LaFontaine was talking to the media Saturday night after the game, and just make sure he got that question in before he left, because he knew we're not going to hear from Laffer all week. But Laffer's excited. He wants to, it's his bud. I mean, they're buds. He wants to see his friend. He wants to meet him at Middle Ice. He wants to, chalk a little trash with him, because that's what that's what friends do. Laffer's definitely looking forward to playing against Mel this weekend.
Yeah, I think there's an understanding between the players, how much you just want to play. You want an opportunity to get on the ice. You put in all this time to get to college hockey. If there's not going to be a net for you, especially with goalies, this transfer portal is a nice deal for him. And I think, Jack is just happy that Jared's getting a chance to play, because Jared's a talented goalie. He has a future being that tall, big, kind of technical goalie, where if he gets enough net time and performs at a level, he'll get a chance somewhere to keep playing. And, they're looking forward to chirping him as well, I'm sure. I'm sure if there's a soft goal, there will be a lot of Gophers around the net reminding him about certain little things.
Well, what did you think about Laffer this past weekend? It seems like he got his game a little bit better together than he had previously, Viggs.
Yeah, I thought Jack was pretty steady this past weekend. He was set for shots with that. I think is a big thing for Jack. He starts drifting sometimes, moving his head around, trying to find the puck, or if he's, kind of not ready for the shooter, he's maybe guessing a little bit. He gets off and, pucks seem to find holes that way, or they bounce off him. One thing that was interesting that he said is, when the game is going well, he doesn't like to freeze a lot of pucks.
No,
he likes to deflect the puck into the corner and keep play going. I thought that was kind of interesting because I've always seen goalies when they're on, it seems like they just swallow everything up. And he said that's not really what he's trying to do. So I'm going to have to change how I evaluate Jack during the game because I always look for that early, whether or not he seems on and square to the shooter.
Here we go. How hot is Granato's seat, Todd? Does he think there's any heat there?
I think it's pretty cool right now.
Mm-hmm.
Winning a Big Ten championship last year obviously helps that.
Yes.
Getting the NCAA tournament helps that because the 3 years before that weren't good, and especially the year before, the 1920 season when they had Caulfield and Turcotte and Holloway and Miller and these guys that all were first round picks at the same time, and it just didn't work. After that season didn't go well, then I think it was getting warm. But he has a 5-year contract that keeps getting extended every year because that's the way that Wisconsin does it.
Mm-hmm.
And at $600K per, that would be a pretty big buyout. Not saying that they couldn't do it, but these are not the times in athletic departments where you're finding a couple $1 million under the couch cushions. So I think the start of the season has been great, maybe hasn't been good, but I don't know that it's changed anyone's administration the way anyone sees him as a coach here.
Here's a long one for you, Viggs. The imagery of empty seats at Mariucci is being talked about almost every weekend. Any options for getting more students in the building to fill empty seats on low attendance weekends? Last weekend, Halloween weekend, kids are just going to be out partying. We already know that they've oversold the student section. So I'm guessing a lot of those students are kind of spilling out into the other seats. But it's not like they could just say, hey, we need 4,000 students to show up, because you just can't plan for that.
They are trying to do all they can to get 2,000 students there. If they think it's going to take them 2,500 seats sold to get 2,000 students, that's what they're going to do. If they think they need to sell 3,000 student tickets to get 2,000 students there, that's what they're going to do. I think that's been a real focus for the ticket office, is to just try to get tickets in student hands, because when they're there, like they were for Duluth and St. Cloud, the building just has a different feel to it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot of where their focus is. Now, for the rest of the building, the other 8,000 seats, they've sold about 4,000 season tickets. So that means that they have about 4,000 seats that they're going to be trying to move, every night. And that's going to be a big challenge, especially for a program right now that is very focused on filling Huntington Bank Stadium. If there's anything that's going to make a dent in the budget, it's going to be selling out the football stadium, especially for a team that just went undefeated in October and has a big month coming up here with home games against Illinois and then again against Wisconsin. That's where the athletic department is going to be really focused. The other part is trying to sell as many basketball tickets as they can, because who knows what's going to happen with that program this year. When you look at Minnesota, they just don't have the staffing to really attack the hockey problem.
And the staffing has been cut. I shouldn't say cut. A lot of people have left, and which is kind of typical in the corporate world these days, Viggs. Positions aren't being filled. People are being told you need to handle more and more and more. And just similar in the corporate world, that's very difficult to cover all your bases.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, if it was my full-time job to do ticketing for Mariucci, I would try to reach out to every youth hockey association in the state and try to sell them, packages of 100, 200 seats and just discount the heck out of them just to get young hockey players in the building and interested in college hockey. But they don't even really have the staff to do that. I know that they have sent out emails to youth hockey associations trying to do group sales, but it's not like a big discount for them. They're just trying to sell group sales as usual. They're going to have to get aggressive here at some point because the product on the ice is pretty good. I mean, a lot of people like to pick at ticket prices, but $25 for Minnesota hockey isn't that bad of a deal, so that's what you're looking at.
But it's always what you compare it to, though, right? If you got in for $12 back in the day and that's what you have in your head, it's like, why would I pay more than that without thinking everything else that has escalated in that 20 years or whatever it's been since that? That doesn't help. It's just the people's mindset in terms of what the right value is or what the right amount is for what they're getting to see.
Yeah, it's always tricky, I think, with ticket sales because for the University of Minnesota, their mission is way different than the Minnesota Wild. When you're spending $200 for a lower level Wild ticket to see them play the Blackhawks, that money is going in the players' pockets. It's going in the owners' pockets. You pay $25 to come see the Gophers play, Notre Dame. That money is paying for student athlete stuff. It's different.
So as number one team in the country, you went to St. Cloud a couple weeks ago. How was the crowd there, Todd?
I mean, it was noisy. I give them that, but yeah, there was, you got into those corners and there was no one there. But I mean, that's kind of what I remember too from, the last time I was there, admittedly it was like 2009 or 2008, something like that. But I think, when North Dakota's there, when Minnesota is there, they fill it up. The other games, it's, 2/3 full maybe. And that's how they roll there. That's what the interest level is, I guess. Doesn't matter if they're number one or not. They maybe get a little boost from that, but you just have fans of the team that are going to go.
Vigo just reminded me we had a question earlier today about Mr. Hughlin. How has his games been so far? He's not on the score sheet, Vigs, but I think Motzko still kind of liked how he's kind of embraced his role.
Yeah, I think they're looking at him as more of a battle player than a point scorer at this point. Bob has been fond of pointing out other sophomores and juniors and other teams who are scoring against Minnesota as, their freshman year, they probably had, 5-6 points, didn't score until late in the year. It takes time for these players to develop. And what he's looking for out of Hughlin right now is just somebody who can go in and compete and be hard to play against. And I think he's bringing that. I don't think he's one of the players who's making mistakes with the pucks. I think he's playing honest hockey, and I think he's giving them the right effort right now. And they need him with all those injuries in their lineup. They need players like him to do that.
They definitely do. So what about this weekend, Vigs? Minnesota heading in to Madison to play a weekend series. Both games on Bally Sports Plus, Bally Sports North Plus, if I can get it right. Jeez. So the games are on TV, 7 o'clock Friday, 8 o'clock Saturday. What do the Gophers need to do to be successful this weekend, Vigs?
Well, I'll be interested to see if they put pucks on net. That's been an emphasis all week from the coaching staff, and last weekend was stop putting the pucks into shin pads. That was the first couple weekends. And now it's don't start shooting over the net. Jared Moe, big tall goalie. Bob's been really critical about players shooting up high on big goalies. You're just making it easy for them, putting it right in their gloves where they can catch it and freeze it. You got to make big goalies get down in their butterfly and protect the bottom of the net and deal with traffic. That's always the key for that kind of goalie. So that's what I'll be looking for out of the Minnesota forwards. For the defense, I'm looking to see, can they carry over their game from Notre Dame where they're real patient and played within themselves to a game like Wisconsin? Sometimes these games between Minnesota and Wisconsin lately have gotten real, fire wagon hockey. I think both teams like to get into it and get up and down the ice. Is that going to happen this weekend or not? Because I think when Wisconsin had that veteran team last year, they were much more disciplined. But that's really the only Granado team I've seen maybe the last, 8 years, how long he's been there, that was disciplined like that. Usually it's fire wagon hockey with Wisconsin, so it can be entertaining, but probably frustrates the heck out of the coaches.
Okay, on the flip side, Todd, what do the Badgers need to do to be successful this weekend?
Well, on the offensive side, they need to, come back with what they did against Michigan the second night. In that they were getting pucks in that and having the traffic in front of that, but also that they were creating a lot of those plays out of their forecheck. They were a lot more aggressive Friday than they were Thursday, and fast and getting at guys and making those Michigan defensemen who, there's a lot of talent there, obviously. And just like there is with Minnesota defensemen, making them make quick passes that they might not be fully confident in and seeing where that goes. Can you make a turnover off of that? Is it going to be a bad pass that ends up in the neutral zone and you're able to do something with it? On the back end, they need to watch out for those quick counters by Minnesota. I think that's something that's always given them trouble, and not just against Minnesota, but against Penn State. I remember Ohio State doing this a couple of years ago when they had Lazinski and those guys. Just the way that when the puck turned over in the neutral zone, they were on their heels, the Badgers as a defensive unit. And they can't allow that to happen because we've seen a lot of odd man rushes turn into goals when Badgers and Gophers to play at the Kohl Center. I just have that in my head. I think that was it 9-2 or whatever, 5-6 years ago. Just seemed like there was a 2-on-1 rush every 4 minutes in that game.
Racehorse hockey.
Yeah. And, when that's always coming at you and you're not able to do much going the other way, that's a tough way to play. And so they want to avoid that as much as they can.
All right, Viggs. What's your prediction for this weekend?
I mean,
he's struggling, folks. He's struggling.
I think it's going to be another sweep for Minnesota. Ooh. I'm a little nervous about how they're going to play after the coaching they're getting. This team, I don't know if they've found kind of their rhythm yet in terms of leadership and attitude, but the talent is definitely there. And it's almost to the point where if they don't beat themselves right now, it's going to take a good team to take it to them. That's the risk right now with Minnesota. When they've given up goals, it's not necessarily because they're getting outplayed. Even against St. Cloud and, most of that Duluth series, when they were getting goals against, it was because they were making their own mistakes. They were taking bad penalties. They're turning the puck over. Didn't see a whole lot of that against Notre Dame. I thought they played within themselves a little bit better. But that's kind of what I see coming up this weekend is smart hockey, staying out of the box, putting pucks on net, sweeping.
Bold. Very bold. All right, Todd. What do you think?
I think if the Gophers win Friday, they'll win Saturday.
Oh.
But I'm not ready to necessarily call it that way yet. I think that the Friday game is going to be I just have this feeling in my head that it's going to be 6-5 one way or another. But I have no reason for saying that. Because
I would love that, though. That's old-time hockey right there. Let's get some scoring going on.
Wisconsin hasn't scored.
True. True.
They're either going to be either on the 5 side or the 6 side of that. And
yep.
I don't know why I have that feeling based on these games the 8 games that I've seen so far. But this is one of those weekends where it's, you get emotions going a little bit more than they have been for, even playing against Michigan and obviously St. Cloud and Army and Michigan Tech. It's going to be a little bit more from a Wisconsin side and maybe to an extent from a Michigan side or from a Minnesota side with the Mo thing There's going to be some heads that may not be in the right space. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to call for a split, I guess. I'm going to say the Badgers get the first one and the Gophers get the second one.
I just have a good feeling, though, that we're going to see shot totals like in the 40s for the Gophers and 20s for the Badgers. And I just don't think that's a recipe for Bucky's success.
No. Trevor doesn't think 5 goals against Laffey will happen. But
not on 20 shots either, because I don't think Wisconsin is going to be able to generate the kind of offense unless Minnesota starts taking a bunch of bad penalties, which could happen. Minnesota, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be drawing many penalties and seems to be taking too many.
Yeah, but the Badgers are also 1 for 25, 26, 25, something like that.
1 for something.
Yeah.
Something tells me you're writing about that this week, Todd.
I'm not actually. Well, it might end up in something, but I've written about it a lot, and I just lost count in the last couple of years. It was 1 for 20 going into last week.
You were spoiled the last couple of years.
Well, last year it was
definitely last year.
I mean, that was otherworldly at some points of the season. That the series up at Mariucci was one of them that they seemed like they could throw out any, hit those 5 guys and do anything with it.
So what are you working on for this week then, Todd?
I have a Jared Moe story coming up. Talk to him and his dad, and have some stuff from last season from Jack LaFontaine, who was pretty defensive and not exactly thrilled with Gopher fans.
Do you have Jack on record going after Jupe? I think that should be in the story.
Not by name, but
you can put in the parentheses.
When I called him Trader Mo,
some of us know who he is referring to. Yes, but yeah, I asked Jared, whether he thought there was anything that was, over the top, that was too much, and he said no. It's I expected, some heat from it, and I don't think he read everything, obviously, that was out there. But
it was just a tweet for me, just a tweet.
Right. And you're going to stir something up when you make a move like that. And I think he knew that. I hope he knew that, because if he didn't, that's a bad misread of the rivalry and the situation. But I think he's in a good place.
I'm guessing his close friends are probably fine with it, but I'm guessing some of his other teammates, Figs, probably not happy across the river.
Oh, yeah. I think Jack is okay with him going across the river, but I think there's some other players who are very, very excited to score on him. Very, very much so. There could be some skates near the crease and things like that after the whistle. It'll be a fun sideshow to watch during this weekend, I think.
I am looking forward to it. I hope it's Friday night, Mo and Laffer. Let's just get right to it. Not this Saturday. Let's start the series this way. Let's get some bad blood going. We need some good bad blood in this series.
Mo is scheduled for Friday.
There it is right there.
Must see TV then.
Right?
It's gonna be. I'm jacked for it.
Do you think there's any chance if he played well, he'd get 2 nights against Minnesota, Todd?
Ooh.
Because I feel like Granado did that a couple times the last couple years, where he's had a goalie where he's gotten into this stretch of alternating, and then one of them will play well on Friday and he'll give him another chance on Saturday, and that kind of backfired a couple times.
Yes, and I don't. My initial reaction is no, that I think he's pretty committed and he wants to make sure Camero gets time too, because he thinks he's going to need both of them through the season. And he doesn't want to lose someone mentally this early. Not to say that that's, necessarily what would happen if, you don't play in a weekend, but I think that's what's been presented as this is the way we're doing it. And if you change that, it could get looked at the wrong way by whoever doesn't get that opportunity.
Right. Unless you're Jess Myers, you're not always looking to stir up goalie controversies. So,
are you crazy?
I think it'll be Jack both nights for Minnesota. Boynton's got an illness that he's picked up now that he's come back from his nasal surgery.
Deviated septum.
Yeah, and Bob was very quick to say, it's not COVID. So, we'll see.
We will see. Well, thanks for coming on with us again there, Todd. We always appreciate it.
I'm honored. I'm thrilled that you would think of me again in these situations.
We always think of you, man. We might even have to sneak you on next week for our 200th show.
Big 200, yeah.
Oh, big 200. Doing this 11 years, Vigs.
Amazing. Whew. Amazing.
I'm surprised. Yeah. So
appreciate you, Todd.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Thank you, guys.
You're a solid guest, and yeah, you might be for the other team that we don't like, but that's the best part about it.
He covers the other team. He does not actually
No. I bet you, and he was young, he was going to Badger games as a fan.
This isn't like Jess Myers either, where he's putting on the Bulldog and,
Well, that's a little different.
Todd's always been a journalist.
I'm not going to deny that. I mean, when I was a kid, yeah. But if you
and the thing is,
I'm not a kid anymore.
But the thing is, as a kid, you turned it into a career. And you know what? And that's just like the greatest thing ever. I mean, obviously you're covering other sports is really awesome too, but you're a fan. That was your team, and now you're covering that team. And then obviously it changes you emotionally when you cover the team. It always kind of changes you, but you're still doing that.
Yeah, I've had to give up a lot of fandoms in this career. I mean, one of them I can see over my shoulder. I still root for the Brewers. That was my team as a kid. I mean, I was part of the Brewer fan club from age 2, so that's something I haven't had to give up.
You're not going to cover the Brewers as your beat?
That would be his dream job right there.
No.
You can't do it? You couldn't do it?
I had to for a while, and so I had to shelve a lot of that, and that was tough. But you're right. I feel like so often how lucky I am to be doing this as a job. I mean,
yeah.
It's kind of crazy that someone pays me to cover college hockey, and that's I try not to forget that. And I had some years there where I was covering the team for a long time, then I got taken off of it, and that hurt, because you've had your dream job and you have it taken away from you. That's rough, but I got incredibly lucky again, and the State Journal brought me on to cover the Badgers.
Well, it's always great coverage, and we follow you. I stalk you when you're doing your Facebook Live.
I do appreciate the comments you throw in there.
Yeah. Throw a few chirps in when we can.
I was ripping on my own team. I'm like, he's talking about how bad the Badgers were that night, and I'm kind of like, well, at least you're not 1-12 and 1 against the Dogs. I'm like, so I appreciate you throwing it on there. It's always just fun, just watching you, and so it's great content you've got over there. So as always, we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Well, Vigs, what have you been working on recently? I know you're thinking about a little Cal Dietz stuff. Is that you still kind of
still pending, Jupe? Life is getting in the way. I'm just trying to tread water and keep my kids in school. And I had a little illness to deal with today with my daughter, but she's fine. It's not COVID. Me and Bob are both aligned there, so we're just trying to keep things humming. And I try to tweet out stuff from the press conferences that I'm able to attend before and after the games, and I hope people are enjoying that so far.
I bet you they do. So, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. And obviously, we're going to thank Todd for coming on with us. Always great to have him on. Our show next week will be number 200. So we're looking forward to that. We got Paul Cappenegri scheduled to come on, but preview a little of the Ohio State series, and got a couple guests scheduled to come on as well. I'm not going to let you know who it is. It's going to be a little surprise. For those of you currently watching live, stay tuned for some overtime. For the rest of you, we'll catch you next week on the GPL Podcast. All right. Let's turn this off. All right, Vigo, you got a beverage of the week, don't you?
I do. I got complicated this week. We'll see if I'm able to open this. But this is Surly Darkness barrel.
That's quite the
aged.
bottle.
It is quite,
Like
it's
3
got
pounds. Jeez.
wax. Yep.
Quite the artistic bottle there.
Yep. It's one of my favorites. It's aged in rye whiskey barrels. Let's see if I can get this. The wax is always complicated when I'm down here. So look away from me for a little bit. I'll come back.
Look away. Don't look. We won't concentrate on Vigs there.
Let me mute this as I work on the wax. Hopefully I don't cut myself.
Yeah, please don't hurt yourself. Brent Hoven. Yeah. Todd Rules follows this post-game stuff on Facebook. So that's a Minnesota fan.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mote, too. Todd is the goods.
Appreciate it.
That's why the fans like you. That's why you're one of our favorite guests. So
I try not to, stir up anything about Minnesota either. That's
you don't say things like Trader Mo.
I don't remember having said anything like that, but there you go. There's a pour. All right.
Jeez. That's dark, Vigs.
Oh yeah, this is midnight. This is daylight savings is coming. Oh, that's delicious.
Oh boy.
It's rich.
See, as you can see, Todd, we found some new software that we really love that just
it looks cool.
Puts this thing all together. After Vigs was on the Soda podcast, what software are they using? And it's great software, and it lets us do pop up comments, right up on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Jared, I saw this earlier. We'll put this up there now. Todd, red brat or white brat?
Oh no.
Oh. How about no brats?
Usually white brat. I don't know.
White brat, the right answer?
I don't know. It's been so long since I've had a brat at Brats that I don't honestly remember what the last one was. So I am much more of a fan of Clements or Johnson. I can't remember which brand. It's a store brand. It's something you buy at the store. It's
get a knife to cut through that beer, Vigs.
Yeah, 17 by the way. 2017. This beer's 4 years
2017, the year. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry.
I won't be drinking until
our discussion.
Yeah, I won't be drinking until our Thanksgiving show.
Oh.
Well, 2 days after. I mean, you get the
break.
next 2 days off. And we've got our buddy Mr. Sloshman on that week. Mr. College Hockey himself. You two cover it like nobody else does. I think that's what Jess is trying to get to. Jess wants to be you two.
He's the best there is, and I am happy to be mentioned occasionally in the conversation. Honestly, I mean, he's got. I don't know when he sleeps. I don't know. He's got an unending list of sources. It's amazing. He is the best there is.
Yeah, I think they just did a story on him. He's got like a 500 game streak. Yeah. That's a lot of pressure.
Really?
Yeah.
He's got an Ironman streak going on. You don't want to pick up a pickleball injury or anything. Maybe eat too much pizza up there in Nodak.
I don't know if Todd even pre-games, but yeah.
No. Yeah.
I mean, who pre?
Well, I mean,
do you go to a post-game meal, snack, appetizers?
No. I've gone.
He wants to go home and get to bed.
Occasionally, I go over, and it's been a few years, obviously. Well, at least a year, because didn't do anything after games last year, obviously. But gone to the Gritty to meet some people after games in the past, right down the road. So but at that point, I'm not looking to eat. I've actually, figured out that eating late at night is not good for me. After all these years, it finally dawned on me. But yeah, I don't pregame. I show up to the call center and start working.
He thinks you should go. Jared thinks you should go hang out with Frank and Wally at the Gritty.
And it actually is usually with Frank and Wally.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Sometimes, well, when Schlossman was here a few years ago, went out there with him, and it was. But yeah, Frank and Wally at the Gritty. That's pretty regular. Whenever it's an option, anyway.
Well, Todd, maybe I'm in a position next year to make it happen. My kids are 7 and 9 now. It's starting to get easier. Right. I'm unlocking new parenting levels.
Futon right here if you need it.
Cool. That'll come in handy. That'll make the wife happy.
Right. Saved on that.
I might bring a beverage and snore, but You
do what you gotta do, right? Yeah.
No, you don't want him coming there. You guys will be up all night drinking.
Let's try this week.
Todd won't drinking. Remember, I
Todd won't, but I will. Yeah.
I'll
be very respectful, Todd.
I'll have Sprite or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually what I do when I go out. Everyone's always making fun of me because I drink water, but
right. Well, you have a long drive, Jupe. You live.
Well, I have a long drive. Plus, it's just
Dakotas.
Tough crowd.
Yeah.
It is a tough crowd. It's OT.
Tough crowd. It's not that far.
I don't know. I'm in Northeast Minneapolis. It's pretty convenient. I can get home in about 10 minutes.
Bring the kids with.
My son is starting to say he wants to go on a road trip. So I think he's almost ready. I think that 10-year-old, almost a squirt.
We've got a 10-year-old here. They could probably get along well.
Do your kids Stratomatic hockey?
No, not yet.
Mine does. So he's into the Stratomatic hockey, mashing lines, trying to figure out combinations that'll score goals. Different forechecks.
Of course, you're close. You're only close, Vigs, if you don't bike.
Yeah, I've been biking to campus quite a bit, so that's been nice because I'm now fully remote for my day job. So I'm not going back to the U, and parking at the U is expensive. So if you're not going to use it, just ditch it. So I haven't had to deal with the parking arrival and exit drama at Mariucci. It's been bad this year, Todd.
They're required. They're closing the gate every person.
Parking and transportation basically invested all this money in automated gates.
Yeah.
So you pay like a credit card and it gets you a ticket and it like scans your car and your license plate. So if you have a pass, like you just drive up and you go right in.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like if you have a season pass for parking, it's automated. As soon as you drive up, it recognizes your car. It opens. You go in. But if you're a daily,
else that's in front of you that you have to wait for, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're a daily person who buys a ticket, it's dark. It's not very well lit. You're trying to get your credit card in. You don't know if it's a tap, if it's a chip, or if it's a swipe. It adds a lot.
And for like employees of Mariucci Arena, Deutsch has to send an email out to each individual person for each game with a different QR code.
Not that I get those anyway.
No, we don't. But I go with Rob Shield, who's part of stats. They send him one every game, and he has to have the right one in order for it to work. I'm guessing this has just made Deutsch's life horrible because now he's just got more things he has to email out to the employees. He needs to have working stats and whatever each game. Rob used to just have a card. He'd just go flash the card, not this thing, email every single game.
This is progress, though, I'm sure, for someone, right?
We don't need any more stress for Deutsch. He's gotten a hard enough time just finding people to get to do the stats and stuff. They were really short last weekend.
And parking and transportation's an issue at the U, like just in general. It's its own department.
Yeah.
And during COVID, people weren't coming to campus, so they had to lay off a bunch of people who were working for them too. And
does Minnesota have the same kind of issue? Or so at Wisconsin, there, parking and transportation is its own department, like you're talking about. And they in athletics don't always see eye to eye on a lot, because, they charge $15 for everything. Women's basketball games that they're trying to get an audience to, they're trying to find new people to come. They're still hitting them with the max parking fee, even though the tickets of the game, they're trying to get those down. But it's when you have to just pay $15 just to get in the ramp, that is hard for a lot of people to swallow.
It is the exact same problem at Minnesota. I'm sure that they would love to find ways to negotiate passes and things at a better rate, but parking's like, nope, this is going to make our budget. We're planning on full funding from parking for athletics, and that money doesn't go to athletics.
Right.
The only exception is the football tailgating. They figured out a way to negotiate those days to work with athletics. And a lot of that's because there's a fee that goes to parking, and then there's a donation that goes to athletics.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But that's the only spot, because it's only like 8 days a year that matters. So they're willing to negotiate that, and athletics prepays for all that parking. So,
well, we do know for one weekend, Viggs, they did leave the gates open after a game, and then last weekend they shut them again.
Yep. So they're trying. I grabbed Mark Coyle and Mike Weiersbicky and talked to them about that, and they're like, it's going to be open today. And then the next night it wasn't. So, there's a lot of turnover in all these jobs these days, so communication isn't a strong suit. So they're working on it. They had to figure out this PJ Fleck contract for this week. So they got him locked up.
Yep.
Cost certainty. Coyle's extended pretty much all his coaches, I think, this fall.
Oh.
Like football, hockey, baseball, softball, track, the sports that still exist.
Yeah. Right. Well, when you narrow it
and
down,
the other ones they're getting sued for.
Yeah. Fun times in college athletics.
I think athletics at the U figured out a smart little way to pay for their budget deficit with the commercial paper program. I don't know if, Todd, you followed that. But the university basically has a $500 million commercial paper program that pays like 12 points interest. So it's like 1%.
No.
And so that's how they're going to pay for the deficit. And they're rolling in some funding things with upgrades to arenas, probably the ice sheet and other things into that program. So it's only going to be like $40 million, but they're only going to pay 1 percentage point interest on it. Whereas if they did it the traditional way, they'd be having that 15-year, 10-year loan paying like 3 or 4 or 5.
Make it happen.
Yep, that rig's shrinking sooner rather than later, I think.
Well, yeah, if you get out from under that debt, that's that.
If you shrink the rink at Kohl Center, you'd actually be able to see better in the third deck.
Well, you have to have people in the third deck for that to matter.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You would.
Yes. And I don't think there's anyone that doesn't want to do that. It's just a matter of finding someone to pay for it.
And
they've got a renovation coming up starting this summer at the Kohl Center. They're going to add a 3-story structure over the loading dock that's going to have a new weight room, like 3 times as large as the one they have or whatever. Academic stuff, nutrition, all kind of student services focused stuff, new offices for the basketball team so they can open up other offices for other teams. But so they're also taking away the media room as part of that. They're doing other things that they if they wanted to, they probably could have snuck in work to reduce the rink size, but I don't think it ever really got to a point where they could do that.
Just move over to LeBron permanently, just like the Gophers should maybe move over to Ritter permanently.
2,200 is probably not going to get it done for attendance at LeBron.
I still
Stick
think
to stats,
if I was renovating Mariucci, I would totally build in some suites, like in the corners, like by the rink level, and sell premium seats like that.
Ohio State is doing something this season and basically not using they're pushing back the seats on one end behind one goal and making like we've seen it, I think, in Fargo at the USHL rink where they have the tables. You stand in, probably beer sales there. I don't know for sure, but so people are trying that kind of thing. I think, where did I just see someone had like behind one goal, like a bunch rows of like just drink rails, kind of that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, you've got like your standing supporter section in a lot of soccer stadiums.
Yep.
I think you've seen NHL stadiums do this. Like, at Excel, they have that Bud Light room now. But I think, reduce the seating to something like 8,000 or 8,500 and build up these premium spaces and make it some atmosphere and get people in there.
It costs money, though, still. It's just a lot of extra money there, though, Viggs.
It does, but it's going to bring in, I mean, in theory, it brings in so much more because you're getting guaranteed money in, people buying those for the season.
Do people are buying an experience and a premium one?
Right. Yeah.
Those always sell first.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. But I would love for them to get the students on the glass. They're 4 feet away right now. That's always been you go to somewhere like even in Madison and you go to Penn State, they are right there pounding the glass, making noise. I mean, the students just can't do that because of where they're at and how it's all lined up.
Yeah. I've always thought that, in the last couple of years, they've done this here in Madison. They've done this like student ticket giveaway where you go on the ice, you shoot into an empty net from the other side. If you make it, you get a free season of tickets, which, they give away a couple hundred. But I don't know how motivated those people are to use free tickets. And that's the kind of thing. You give something away, you're taking away some of the motivation of people who normally would buy it and feel like, I've got to use this, even though that's.
I mean, they're trying to oversell the student section at Mariucci right now. I think they tried to double sell the 1,700 seats, but actually sold 3,400 packages, and you could come either night.
Yeah,
they still weren't filling the student section, and then you saw them oversell the St. Cloud game by 800 seats, so they sold 2,500 seats for 1,700. And it was full, and so they dialed it back a little bit for the UMD game.
Yeah,
but they're trying.
Well, then you obviously if you put the students on the glass, then they're going to say, "Don't pound on the glass."
If you ever notice at the Kohl Center, the glass is on the student section side is tilted in towards the rink because they've been pushing on it so much. It's probably not great, and I hope it doesn't collapse at some point. But I don't think they have a lot of people there telling them not to pound on the glass.
I'm one of those don't pound on the glass people.
Oh, jeez, come on! When the students are riled up, bam, 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 bam.
Put signs up.
When you mention shrink, bringing in the size of the rink at the Kohl Center, I've always thought that just bring that in and sell people seats or tables right along the glass there. People love rinks like glass side seating, and I don't get it a lot of ways because I get you're right in it, but you can't see most of the rink if you're right there. But maybe that's not what you're there for. Anyway.
I think it works better on the ends than it would from the sides.
Yeah, totally. But that's not where they'd be putting those because that's not the part you're you're making smaller.
Yeah.
I always remember going to Old Mariucci and standing in that, where the rink kind of came over that gold section, and that was all standing room right against the glass at the end line. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I had a lot of standing room only at the Old Mariucci there. Really close to the ice cream.
I've only ever seen pictures, and that's one of my great regrets in life. I never got to go to a game at Old Mariucci.
It was a fun place.
It was a fun place. Goldie up in his perch.
He was like on a stage up there. It really made Goldie go for an iconic figure to a little impressionable kid like me.
Yeah, I bet.
Steve, just reading some of the questions here. Eric Brever, he's down there low along the ice. Eric, maybe you should be pushing for, those little open areas for standing bar or something like that on the ends. Would you go to that, Eric?
I think if one of the
look at this. He's got his fancy lawyer photo here.
One of the things that they're doing at Camp Randall is after this season, they're knocking out the south end zone seating and redoing it with all club seats. And I think that's, if you do something like that, and have, if you just have the seating but have a club space they can go to from there, that would be how you tie everything in. So you don't necessarily have to build like a full out suite. You could have like a loge box kind of thing where they then also can go from there into a private, semi-private kind of.
I'm trying to think at Mariucci on the ends, like, one section's, I guess it's, 1, 2, and was it 24? The ticket office is right beneath them or right behind them.
They don't need to be there, Jupe. You could just, if Craig Floor loses his office because of the M Club room, the ticket people can move somewhere else. I'm sure there's plenty of places for them to go in Huntington Bank Stadium or wherever.
And there's probably definitely space on, I guess it would be the TV side of the arena. There's a lot of storage and a lot of kind of.
That's what I've always wondered. What's in that side? Because the locker rooms are.
Well, yeah, the locker rooms are one side. There is some storage area over there, and there's also the bay where the TV trucks are and delivery trucks.
I thought that was more towards the corner, but okay.
Yeah, I feel like it is more towards the corner, but there are some spaces where they could do some things if they got really creative. It's just
they still have classrooms in there, don't they?
Yeah, there's the kinesiology classrooms over there too, human performance stuff. But again, they could move too,
Notre Dame has great club seating arrangement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was the miss of building a rink 30 years ago. That wasn't really a thing 30 years ago. That was more of a 15, 20 years ago where it started to be more of a focus. So just timing.
Yeah, but then you get a club or something like that, you're going to have to actually hire people to actually serve and things. Boy.
I don't think that'd be a problem. That's not going to be your.
Everything's a problem with the U. I mean, if you can't figure out parking, come on.
Well, they don't control parking. Parking's not.
The thing is, here's the deal, Viggs. It's the University of Minnesota. They can do whatever they want. The university
is like the biggest fiefdom thing ever. It's like Game of Thrones. It's like, oh, you want my parking lot for this day? Well, in exchange of that, I want you to credit my account $15,000. Who cares what the market rate is? Or the
but you would think
you got to hire somebody. You got to pay somebody's salary. You got to pay a $30,000 salary for someone to work those games. That's not coming out of my budget. That's coming out of your budget.
You'd think they'd be able to.
Happens all the time.
I know. You'd think they'd be able to figure it out, though. I mean, it's ridiculous
that
you can't figure it out.
Like they're ironborn. They pay the iron price for things. It's difficult.
Funny, if they need a parking lot to build a building, they can do whatever the hell they want, can't they? There are ways.
Well,
but then you have to go. You got to go all the way to the top to make that.
All the way to the top, and then you got to annex that property for building something. Like it's not like you just get to use it.
I know there are solutions, but I mean, it's just
you got to do your.
It's gotten out of control.
Take it.
it's gotten out of control. It's almost like a mafia thing now.
I like my Game of Thrones thing. So Todd, tell us about this Jared Moe story that's coming out. I know way earlier in the comments, someone brought it up. There are good OT topics about the Jared Moe article situation that maybe, are best suited for overtime where it's just on YouTube for our loyal listeners for a little bit.
I don't think there's anything. I'm actually just pulling it up on my other screen here to make sure I'm not forgetting anything that I wrote earlier, but there's nothing like scandalous in it.
Nothing like Trader Moe.
No, I mean, he was. Everyone kind of got this chuckle in the offseason about how his pads arrived long before he got his new mask, and so he was, all decked out in his Badger stuff in the offseason when they, having workouts with his new teammates, and he's still wearing his Gophers mask. And everyone say you got to get rid of that. Wear something blank, and he's like, I don't have that. I have this.
I mean, you get used to a helmet. You just got to wear it. I mean,
well, they're not cheap.
No,
you just
they're not
buy
cheap.
A spare.
Yeah, it's exactly. I mean, they probably have a backup.
I wonder whether his backup is his Gophers mask, right? And so,
wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, because when we sent a photographer out to practice the week before the season started, and he was one of the guys that said, "Look, we need a photo. This guy is new on the team. I like to have something in reserve here." And for some reason that day he was wearing his Gophers mask. So the photo we have of him is in his Badgers, practice jersey, all Badgers pads, and his Gophers mask. So that probably will be what you see with that story when it comes out.
The Gophers going to go headhunted Viggs. Let's try to damage his mask. So he's got to wear the Gopher mask.
I don't think they have to try to headhunt. That's just where they shoot the puck. So. Jared might want to make sure he's got his good tuck squat.
The one thing that came out as funny to me is that Granato, when we were talking to him about this earlier this week, he was joking that, this is the player to be named later for Samporanta. So.
It's good that they went with a native English speaker then. Didn't have to take that foreign language entrance exam.
Right.
It's hard.
Oh, boy. It'll be a fun weekend. I hope we can get some bad blood going, Viggs.
I mean, it's hard, I think, to have some bad blood sometimes these days. All the players are so close now that you don't have some of that bad blood, even when things like the Cruikshank thing happened or the Ranta thing happened or now the Moe thing. Like, I don't think it matters like it used to. But we'll see. You never know.
I wonder.
All it takes is a couple bad series.
Yeah, all it takes is one little Gopher player accidentally running into Moe.
Yeah. I mean,
I wonder what the response will be.
Yeah.
If Roman and Sean can take a run at Sean Doogie last season, I think there's anything's possible in a series like this.
We need some
good
stuff. We need some good
Baker,
stuff.
Every chance he gets, he wants to make a name for himself in a series against Minnesota. I think he's a guy who circles this game on his calendar.
And in the past, I think we've seen him try to do way too much and get way off of his game because of it. And I mean,
true.
He's a guy that just has to be. Look, you're a second, third line center. Don't try to be dangling out there like you're trying to prove something. But.
Well, he's fiery too. Like, if he makes a big hit, he'll put the exclamation point on it.
Yes.
I don't know. I just think with Moe being in goal, I think it could get interesting. He makes a big stave and he flashes the glove or something. I mean, where have we seen anything like this happen with the Gophers and Badgers?
Wasn't there a football player?
Who cares about football?
Hey, right? Yeah.
I mean, because the Badgers dominate football with Gophers. I mean, I know that people are all excited about the Gopher football team this year. Beat Wisconsin, then get back to me.
True.
It's the same every time, Viggs. Beat Wisconsin.
I hear it with Gopher hockey. Beat Minnesota Duluth, beat St. Cloud, beat North Dakota. It's like, does Wisconsin hockey even have that kind of thing going on? Because right now, that anytime Minnesota plays, it's like, yeah, but they can't beat the in-state teams.
No.
That's just such a albatross around their neck right now.
I mean, there's more of a, like, they can't beat teams like Bemidji and like Michigan Tech right now just because of, they can't beat teams that have a bunch of 24-year-olds, I guess. But no, there's really nothing like that. I mean, this is pretty much a one rival team. If we're being in geography, I mean, there's not there's nothing like Minnesota where you have every other team in the state kind of around you coming after you, plus North Dakota.
We all used to be in the same league too. Huh.
Yeah.
Funny. I wonder who wanted that. Oh, geez. Just retired.
Retired, yeah. I mean, a lot of people wanted it. He's the one that.
I actually don't hate Mo. I think he's a pretty good guy. And honestly, Trader Mo just sounded really good.
I would argue that the Big Ten has worked out really well for Penn State.
Sure.
They launched super successfully, and now they have a regional every other year.
Yeah.
It's like it worked out really well for
Midwest, West Regional.
Yeah.
Finally dropped that name, didn't they? It's now just the
Allentown.
Yeah.
The Allentown, Sioux Falls, Grand Forks.
All regionals are going to be. It's going to be 4 Minnesota teams as the number 1 seeds.
I still haven't heard what they're doing yet for the schedule for regionals. You guys heard anything on that?
Yeah, isn't it every other?
Well,
they're the extra day,
adding a day, and does that mean they're going Thursday, Saturday, Friday, Sunday, or that's what it
would have to be, wouldn't it?
Right.
I hope so, because that's still my favorite weekend of the year. Love that weekend.
Now you spread out over 4 days. You don't have that one crazy day where you have 6 games.
6 game Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, that's not fun for anyone.
It's
not fun for U.S. College Hockey Online.
No, and that was the best and worst day of the year combined. Yeah.
Yep.
Just it's awesome having that many games of consequence going on. It's, I
officially got to work with Todd on one of those Saturdays one year. That was fun.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
But I just thought for pure fandom, that weekend was always the best. It's just like, you got your Friday afternoon, get out of work early. And then Saturday was just amazing. And we had some time in the early 2000s there. You'd be going to, Nesson or whatever. You were kind of going all over the place. And but you could see all the games on TV. Not always the case now. I bet you North Dakota just loved that last year when their game wasn't on. But man, I always just love it. You sit. Obviously, you guys have always worked it, but boy, I just love sitting on my couch and just vegging out.
To your point about that game not being on TV, I think we're at a point now, or maybe it's coming soon, where if you can't stream a game on your TV, that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, yeah, but people bitch about everything.
I get.
Oh,
it's
ridiculous.
People will complain about anything, whether or not, even if they weren't going to watch it before, they will almost complain about it just to complain about it, even though they weren't going to watch it. It's insane to me.
Though I don't think Brent Hoven can stream it on his flip phone.
Probably not.
Brent, can you stream that on your flip phone?
His beer budget doesn't allow it. You can't buy a $220
He's got a computer, but still, I don't.
And you afford streaming or tickets.
I was just surprised that they did that with North Dakota last year. I mean,
yeah,
I think if they did that to Minnesota, it would be, people would freak out, and the NCAA, they would hear a lot about it too. But Minnesota's always on TV, sure and they always get the highest ratings.
They get the best ratings,
yeah.
But it's not like North Dakota's not going to get high ratings either.
But their fans are going to pay for streaming because they will pay for it.
And that's kind of what they've become conditioned to with NCHC.TV, right? That's if you want to see their games, especially their road games. I mean, that's that league has done a really good job of making that a just a destination every year, kind of like, okay, just auto renew.
And it's a good product. Like when you watch games on there, like it streams quickly. You can fast forward and rewind, and it doesn't buffer a ton. It's a great product.
That is the name I was trying to think of.
Look at that.
This is why I love the live show. You get answers like this.
Yeah, there was one Minnesota player. One between Minnesota and Wisconsin for hockey that I've been able to come up with anyway. It was one of the for crying out loud. I'm thinking of forgetting this now. It was one of the Lundins. Started at Wisconsin with his brothers and then finished his college career at Minnesota. So really? Late 70s, early 80s.
That's way too early for me.
But interestingly, he played 2 years for the Gophers, played 1 year for the Badgers. He's listed as a letter winner for the Badgers, but not for the Gophers.
Wasn't good enough.
Yeah, probably.
Classic Gopher reject.
Oh, boy.
Do we have signing day coming up here pretty soon, Todd?
Starts Wednesday, yes.
Wednesday, you excited? You got your 40 profiles written yet? Figuring out which ones are going to make it?
Yeah, right. I am. So the idea of signing day pains me every year. Not for that reason. Well, I suppose partially for that reason, but so for whatever reason they don't announce their signings until like a week later, until they get all of them together and have I don't know exactly what, but
I can shed some light on that process.
What?
I can shed some light on that process.
But so
finish your thought.
Granado won't talk, by rule, he's not supposed to talk about it until they have them all confirmed or whatever. So they don't have him talk about it until the next week. But I know everyone who signs the day that they sign because they send me their pictures. I've been in touch with them. So I have to write on that. And so then I have to write again, I come up with a different story a week later when Granado talks about it. And it's pointless. That part of it is just a redundancy that doesn't need to happen. Mm-hmm. But so yes, your insight is
the major reason that happens is because a lot of the players who sign their letters, they also have to get a signature from the parents.
Right.
And because the kids are playing junior hockey, they're obviously not in the same location.
Yes.
So what needs to happen is the NCAA needs to go, all right, we're just going to do a single sign-on site where you can sign your letter electronically and process it. Because they're just so tied to this paper signature thing for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even do that with mortgages anymore. I'm sure Jerry from First Mortgage is just like, yeah, we can do everything electronically.
I signed my mortgage papers at a Brewers game. I mean,
right.
It was an offer. I think it was something like that. But so fairly consequential legal document.
Yeah, all electronic.
You're telling me this can't be done electronically? I mean, we're past that point.
Yeah, we're way past that point. Apparently, it's pretty low hanging fruit that will spoil on the.
I mean, we're lucky they don't have to use fax machines anymore because there's probably people who are still in that. That's the same kind of.
They still got them in their offices, right? Though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the backup, I think. But, and plus, that's not the NCAA. That's another thing the NCAA has farmed out to someone else. That's the National Letter whatever board.
Yep.
Which seems like, couldn't that be something that fell under the NCAA's umbrella? Really?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But that's the big reason why there's that delay.
Yeah.
The kids, most of them are playing junior hockey, so the signature chain can't happen quick enough.
Right.
Like it does in football for most kids.
Well, plus they have like 60 people working on football signing day, right? To make sure as soon as something comes in, it gets double checked and can go out within 5 minutes on Twitter.
Right. Bob doesn't even like to confirm that people have signed NLIs. Who signed? Someone signed last year, like in February. It might have been Huglin. Like he signed in February, but no one found out about it till like April. Because he didn't do anything on social, and Bob's not going to just give that out. And so there's like 2 months where he knew he was going to be coming to Minnesota, and then he got real hot in the USHL playoffs. Like he was really playing well, and so people were like, "Oh my gosh, is he going to sign somewhere else?" And it's like, nope, he's already signed with Minnesota. It's like, why doesn't Minnesota announce that? Because he's just on fire in the playoffs, and he's got this family connection. I don't know. It's weird. So I'm sure like Brian Deutsch is super happy because, he's got uncertainty because I don't even think the coaches know for sure what they're going to do next week yet.
Yeah.
Like, I think they have an idea what they're going to do, but I don't think it's like in ink. I think it's
the kids though. The kids announce it on Instagram or Twitter or whatever anyway. So,
but what if the kid doesn't know? Like Cruikshank, like when he was going to sign with Wisconsin, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, you don't have your scholarship money that you thought you were going to get." And that happened to who's the Gopher player who signed with Notre Dame, the defenseman. We just saw him last weekend, but he went through the same deal. It's like he thought he was going to get X, and he ended up getting Y offered to him.
Yeah, and that was just bad communication. I mean, for the Cruikshank one, it's just bad communication after a coaching change.
Yep,
because he committed on to Eves,
Boltman.
Yep.
And,
that's what chat's for.
Yeah, should have been taken care of long before it was, and yeah. There's been a few of those kind of things.
Well, I mean, at least we saw with the U with.
Is this really their 300th game? Career? Is this the 300th career Gophers Badgers game? You got the media? No, we don't have a media guide yet.
I'm going to my database. Hold on.
I think they've played 300 times now.
So
this will be the 301st time, maybe.
This also depends on is this one of these
records?
Right. This might be one of the teams that, or one of the series that doesn't count things on one side and does on the other.
Yeah. The 1922 game outside at Lexington Rink in Minnesota wasn't regulation, so it doesn't count.
Wow, that's a lot of games. And of course, we know the Gophers lead the series.
Quite a bit, yeah. Yeah, and at the Kohl Center, especially lately.
Kohl Center, isn't it? They're above 500 at Kohl Center. Have they gotten that far now?
I'm sure it's well above 500.
Is it well above?
Hold, please. I'll find it.
That's how you know you're dealing with a true professional, where they are going to their record spreadsheet. I think, Frank Mazzacco, he's got his. He's kind of the Gopher person who's got.
He does. He's got a lot on his phone.
He sent me a sheet because he had a wedding in the family as his daughter was married off the other day. And so he was missing the series. And he's like, Viggs, Here are the important things to know for the Minnesota-Duluth, Minnesota series. In case something weird happens, here's my sheet.
So I have 299 games.
That's what Wikipedia says, according to David there.
Gopher Hockey History says 300.
Well, there may be one in there, yeah. But let's see. All right, Coles.
So I don't know what he would have that is in there that's not official. He does a pretty good job.
It'd be nice if Deutsche was watching live. Maybe he could give us what the most current media get.
His child had an illness as well, not COVID.
Everyone's saying not COVID.
It's not COVID, but his child
got to clarify that, yeah.
Not
his
COVID.
child had an illness as well, so he's probably catching up on sleep right now.
Poor Deutsche.
I have the Gophers 24, 14, and 5 at the Kohl Center. The odd number being because of the 1 year played in Chicago. The second.
Do you have this on Tableau?
I tried to put it on Tableau, but that wasn't working very well. So no, she's just on Google Sheets.
I have a lot of stuff on Google Sheets as well.
Yeah.
Well, we might have to just go with Wiki. $2.99.
I wonder why Gopher Hockey History has it wrong. I mean, I have no idea what they could even be including that wouldn't be right.
I mean, it very well could be some game in the 1920s, right?
Right.
Yeah. Gosh, I thought I had a PDF of the most recent media guide, and I can't remember what I do with it. I'm losing my mind.
Well, I've got this one a couple of years ago. But.
Another thing that Deutsch has had ready for a while, and they can't get the darn media guide printed up. Is that last year's?
1920.
No, Viggs. What was? Wait.
It's one of my favorite ones.
Well, let me put you up there. There we go. Oh, sorry, that's me. Let's put up you.
Look at that guy in the front. I mean, does he look like the kind of player that would trip a Notre Dame player at center ice? Look at those conference title pictures. Aren't those just great?
6 consecutive. Well,
I don't think this would be in here, but I've got it.
I don't know what I do with mine. It's around here. So how do I do it back here?
I haven't gotten one for a while. They don't print them anymore, Todd. Brian puts them together, sends them off to the printer, and then they never get printed.
Nothing happens. So
they'd rather give me a single game credential for every game I show up than just print me out a season one.
I can't remember what I do with mine.
They've run out of single game credentials now at Mariucci. So we get these game services ones now. So I'm just ready. I'm going to go right in the locker room. I'm game services.
Bring your media credential from a couple of years ago.
I know.
Just have them put the sticker on it for the game.
I don't want to do that. I probably could just bring these.
I did that a couple of years ago. I was looking at some of my credentials. Yep.
It's very evident, Todd, that hockey is not the priority at Minnesota.
That's kind of what I'm hearing here, yeah.
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 Ooh, a vacated game.
All right. 2014, 2015. I was putting a sticker on there.
Look at that photo. Who is that guy?
I know. That was like my
one. Photo is now from 2014, 15.
You should see Rob Shields. His is at least 20 years old on his. Yeah, I just started going because we didn't get our credentials very quickly in 2015, 16. So I just went and I just brought this and they were just putting the sticker on it. I'm like, I'm not playing this game anymore. And they all fell down off my wall there.
So someday I'm going to do a copy paste of these games and do a comparison with another copy paste and figure out which one doesn't match. But I'm not doing that tonight.
I may or may not be going through them right now. As
Look at that!
Because I don't want to say this is the 300th game if it's not the 300th game.
Jeez. Definitely more important to you than.
Yeah. And Tom's, I kicked you out because you like to be a smart ass, that I'm not very good technologically. I can't say it. So I gave you a 5-minute timeout. What a shame.
5
I
minutes.
I guess I know tech pretty
fighting.
good. I like kicking Tom's out. It was fun. Yeah, and actually this week I figured out how to, when I do the tweet out, we're actually broadcasting live on Twitter as well.
Nice.
High tech.
Hmm.
And it tweeted as we went live, so it worked out really well there, Viggs.
Nice.
So yeah, I look on it right now. I go to that tweet, and there we are talking. So now we're live on Twitter as well this week. So,
by the way, when I was doing my blocks and shots and missed ones, they're also in the top 10 for shots blocked too.
Which is kind of odd for them.
Yeah, it's just like, really?
It's usually everyone else who's blocking gopher shots.
Oh, I think I found it here. I think I found the difference.
Oh boy. Okay, we're gonna put you up on the number one there.
2/9/1935. I don't have in my list here, but it's on the Gopher list.
1935. There you go.
35. We haven't have games back in 1935 on here. No, that's the difference here.
2/9/1935.
Because they played on 2/8/1935 too.
Which is the last game in the season on the Wisconsin book.
So
which also was the last season before they shut down for 30 years. So that would be the one, I think. All right, there we
1935, folks. There it is.
Solved all of the world's problems tonight.
Well, that's weird. Trying to find out why that game didn't happen,
or did it happen? And
I am now.
Was it a 2-game total goal series that wasn't really 2 games, or was something goofy? Or
after the first game was 9-0. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. There we go. It's always by game. Now what's the deal with North Dakota and Minnesota? Isn't it like 10 or 12 game difference, Speaks?
I don't know for sure. I'm just wondering, like.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that season did end. Oh no, they were only 5-6 that season, so I thought they were worse than that. With losses to Wausau, Eagle River, and 2 at Michigan. They did come back with wins over Green Bay, Marinette, Wisconsin Rapids, and the Milwaukee Rowing Club.
Watch out for those rowers.
I love those. Yeah, it's like. Not that I recall. I think
probably Title IX stuff with that, wasn't it?
Well, the fact that they couldn't draw more than 10,000 people at football games helped do that to the baseball team.
Yeah, true.
They had no money.
Those Wisconsin in-state rivals.
Yeah, I mean, there was.
I mean, you think about that when I kind of want to start watching college hockey. It was just Minnesota and Minnesota Duluth. That was it. And now we've got 6 teams in the state. I mean, all those other teams are still there, just not the same division. Maybe Wisconsin needs to step it up and upgrade a couple teams.
Is there going to be another Wisconsin team anytime soon? St. Norbert's or
no? That ship I think sailed with St. Norbert 20 years ago. They had a chance to go D1 before all this stuff changed, where you'd have to elevate everything. That back at that point they could still just take their hockey team D1. I don't think they'd have been able to have scholarships, but I don't see it happening, especially with the way things are right now financially. But
it would literally have to be one of the other kind of big Wisconsin schools that doesn't even have hockey at all.
Yeah, I mean, there was talk. This is a long time ago, the '90s probably, about UW Green Bay, because when the Gamblers started getting going and kind of proved that there was some, a bigger market for hockey there. Then St. Norbert got going. They thought, well, maybe this could make a nice little, addition to that. But I don't think that ever got very far down the road towards anything legitimate.
How are the Gamblers doing? Do they do pretty well, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's they're the main tenant of that arena now. So
yeah,
I think that's. I mean, so they do the whole thing, with the beer garden and dollar beer night and all that stuff, and they get their best.
There's some fun nights in Des Moines watching the Bucks play, where someone scores a goal and it's dollar beers, and everybody runs out in the concourse, and then comes back, and another goal gets scored. People run out again,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I mean, they've got a good rivalry starting with the Capitals here in Madison, so yeah, I think they're all. I mean, they're kind of in that group of teams that does okay business-wise, financially. So,
and now I'm just seeing your chat now, V, because I didn't know you posted that link for the Wisconsin thing. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I could have shared that to everyone.
I can't share it to everyone, but
God, I don't know why.
This Gopher Hockey History is where I go to a lot of times for. I don't have a database, but this guy does a pretty good job of, when you're looking for like last 20 games, for whatever reasons, especially when the Gophers don't have a good record in the last 20 games, you will not get that from Brian Deutsch. So I have to go here and kind of piece it together, and then I kind of double check it a little bit, but
yeah, I don't have sites on a lot of those early games. I never went back to find, because hard to.
What was that game? It was 35, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's on the next page, I think.
There's the two games right here.
Gophers have it as a 5-1 win on what I said, the 10th.
Yeah,
on the 9th.
The 9th.
Oops.
Yeah, you're right.
So I was, while we're talking, I'm looking at since I am a U of M employee, I have access to the U of M libraries databases, and I'm not even sure what newspaper to look for 1935.
I'm looking through the State Journal of those days, and
because the Minneapolis Star, I think they have 1947 is when it starts for them. So I've got the Minneapolis Star Journal, 1939. That doesn't get me back far enough.
It's not about a moderator, Steve. It's just the software.
We take the good with the bad, Steve.
With the software, it only allows one kind of person to be the producer.
And that's what I want. Minneapolis Daily Star, 1924. But I'd have to go to campus and look at microfiche to get that.
And there's no microfiche archives going back.
Yeah, it's not digitally available. No. There's barcodes. I know what barcode I need, and I could request it. Do I want to go to Wilson Library before this weekend so Todd knows what happened for this game? I don't know.
Yeah, this is going to
because if there's a recap or something and someone talked about it, it happened.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt that game was played. I can imagine that it was conveniently forgotten by.
But the thing is, the game they kept is the 9-0 game, and then they didn't keep the 5-1 game. So I mean, these the Badgers scored in the other one.
Yeah, that box score may have been just kind of thrown along the side of the road on the way home.
So here's the weird thing. When I look at the Gopher year-by-year media guide, it's got that February 9th game in here.
Yeah. The Gopher one does.
Yeah.
The Wisconsin one does not.
Yeah, Frank Pond, head coach. Sorry, I might have missed that earlier. I already cleared that up. Man, what a rabbit hole we've gone down here.
There you go. That's what we do here in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go down rabbit holes during the podcast. Oh, boy.
All right, I have the Minneapolis Star of February 9th, 1935. Let's see what we get here.
Wow.
You might need the 10th, though. Do you have the 10th?
Oh, yeah, that I was originally going with that one. Yeah, you're right. Gophers, Badgers show pros how to battle in real free-for-all is the headline. College hockey boys in roisterous scramble as U wins. That's the 9-0 game. The fight was on. Bill Heyman, referee, rang the bell on an offside before the Gophers had punched through a goal. A Gopher and a Badger went down together in the melee around the goal mouth. The Badger must have been a Wisconsin defenseman's young brother or roommate, for the backline bouncer stepped right over to lead with a left and cross with a right, and the fight was on. This is good stuff.
Oh, that is good.
I need this.
You need to incorporate more of that into your writing, Todd, obviously. Or the 300th game.
Yes, final graph of the story. The two teams will close the series at the arena tonight with no holds barred.
You got to fix that Wisconsin thing. Got to make it back. So it is 301.
That's good writing. Trying to capture the
Was Sid Hartman writing that one?
There's no byline, but
no, he would have been like 5, but or when you say 35, he would have been like 12.
Yeah.
He was probably delivering that paper.
He might have delivered that paper.
Not writing it.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So, going to the
Time to go back to Madison and say, guys, you got it wrong. Time to add this game back in. We're all messed up. It's 301. 300 was the Big Ten championship last year.
That's right. Wow. If we would have known that then, man.
It would have been
What about a closer game?
There it is. Gophers whip Badger sextet again, 5-1. There it is. The University of Minnesota hockey team won its second Big Ten game of the season by defeating University of Wisconsin 5-1 in a rough,
Big Ten game, folks. Big Ten game.
Yeah, at the Minneapolis Arena Saturday night. Although the game was exceedingly rough at times, no general fighting broke out, as was the case Friday night when Minnesota routed the Badgers 9-0.
Seemed like the 9-0 one had much better writing.
Yeah, this one. Well, it's a Saturday night. It's
Saturday night. The writer wants to get out of there. He's got to get
early deadline.
Easy. Wait, is that Prohibition? 1935.
So otherwise, the Minnesota numbers for wins, losses, ties, and games is accurate.
I'm adding this game into my.
Look at that.
Right now.
One Badger at a time, we're setting straight.
One brewer at a time. I don't know if we called Todd a Badger.
Yeah.
Todd, did you go to Madison?
I did. I gave that up a long time ago.
He's a Badger. He's a Badger.
It's just a wonder you don't work for the Star Tribune. They've got all those Madison grads in that sports department.
It's true, yeah.
It's a big talking point on the Gopher message boards of football and basketball focus.
So I have an issue now that I have to change because I have these games all numbered so I can count.
Oh, no.
So every game after 1935 is going to have to be +1 on here. All right. I'm going to have to.
You have to do a formula.
Yeah, set that aside to do later. Okay. Anyway,
I'm back to have an extra Sprite on hand tomorrow.
Yeah.
Get the energy.
Yeah.
You might want to go to Coke instead. Up the ante a little bit. Dr. Pepper, maybe. Mountain Dew will really get you going.
I used to be on Mountain Dew, and I was advised to cut out the caffeine. So that.
How about a nice A&W root beer then?
Oh, love the A&W root beer.
PJ Fleck had a root beer float this week at his coach's show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Must have known his extension was coming. He's like, I'm going to have some ice cream. And a soda. Like, that's how you know it's a good week for the coach.
Yeah, right?
He's having root beer floats at his coach's show. Don't think we ever saw the Don do that.
Don's probably never had a root beer float.
Oh, come on. Everybody's had a root beer float.
I'm just being a jerk. It's what I do. Remember Trader Mo?
It's true. Will not shy away from taking a shot.
I love how Laffer went after me on that Zoom meeting. That was the greatest. Some people in the media, I'm like...
And the funny thing is Laffer was pretty anxious to talk about it on Saturday after the game. You know how, like, most players after a game, like, they're so... like focused on this is how I have to be. I have to be, you know, I don't know if you watch Ted Lasso, but like they have that Roy Kent. It's like, I got to be tough and mean and gruff, you know. Laffer's just like, yeah, game's over. Like I flipped my switch already. I'm ready to move on. And he has a good chat about everything. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
Oh, he was talking about with Jess Myers, Gary Carter, and some 30 for 30 for the Mets, I believe.
Yeah, and I started watching that this week. Holy cow, is that series crazy?
I've heard of that. Yeah,
it covers the Mets with Strawberry and Gooden and Gary Carter, and basically, like the whole series is about like these athletes. Lenny Dykstra is on that team. How they are just like really, really successful. I think they finished like 45 games over 500, won their division. And in the meantime, all their players are like out every single night. Like Strawberry and Gooden are on like cocaine problem trajectories and stuff. And it's just like just all kinds of women. And then they win the NLCS and they trash the plane on the way back. And like they show up and everybody's like, what the heck? And Davey Johnson's their manager. And he's like, hey, as long as we kept winning, didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like Daryl Strawberry would be out till like 5 a.m, show up, you know, and call the clubhouse guy and be like, hey, can you bring my uniform to me out in the parking lot? Because I don't want to show up in the locker room and get dressed there. I want to look like I've been here a while. Like that's the kind of stuff that was going on.
Wow. Yeah, and obviously Laffer's a little young, so he doesn't know about that. Didn't know who Gary Carter was. It was obviously one of the most famous Canadian baseball players.
Yeah. But, I mean, just the difference in expectations for athletes today versus then.
Oh, jeez.
Like,
and
I mean, it's crazy.
And the thing is, they were literally a Bill Buckner error away from losing in Game 6, and that was it.
Yeah. But, like, there's this night where Strawberry showed up in the parking lot, and his first at-bat, he hits a home run. Like, probably the hardest thing to do in sports. Mm-hmm. And he's just like...
One of the sweetest swings I ever had. Like, I loved his swing. It was just smooth little... Just...
It's always amazed me how guys that are that tall, like how their swings can look so just like graceful, like just I don't know what it is, but yeah, that was there's been some interesting performances over the years on Substance, yeah.
Usually baseball focused for whatever reason. Well, baseball players, like
obviously baseball, it's kind of chill. I mean, things can't happen fast, but it's not like all the time. Whereas hockey, it's just whoosh, going.
Well, I mean, I was pretty amazed. I'm just horrible tonight, but the player Setaguchi that the Wild got from San Jose, Setaguchi,
yeah.
He had a major drinking problem where he would drink like a 750 of booze the day of games. Like not even, practice days, like game days. Like he would drink like an entire bottle and just like play through it. I'm just like, I can't even imagine how that's 1, possible, 2,
right.
tolerated, 3. I mean, he didn't perform very well for the Wild, but I mean, you just don't hear a lot of that these days.
Drinking's bad.
I mean, crazy.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff's going to start coming out these next few years of what guys have done, what you guys have been through. It's all going to come out, and it's not going to look good. And
NHL's going to have some huge issues anyway. I mean, you've got the whole Chicago thing going right now.
I don't know. I just don't understand the cover-up stuff. I just don't get it.
You always think you're going to get away with it. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, and it's just like you read and you hear about some of that stuff, and it's just like I get like a sick to my stomach kind of feeling.
Yeah.
How is that? I mean, I know everyone's trying to win and everyone's trying to do, put things in the place that they think they need to be. But how does that ever get to that point where you just like say, no, we're not dealing with this right now?
I don't know. Brent's bringing up a good point. It's like NHL is the most tight-knit. Like, it's weird locker room code in hockey. It's weird. And, I mean, on some things, it's probably helpful, but on a lot of stuff, on a lot of fronts, it's doing more harm than good.
Yeah, and I think you're starting to see that it's never going to be completely different, but I think you're starting to see some things change. Like 5 years ago, does Carey Price back away and say, no, I need time for myself to get right? That doesn't happen, and it needs to.
Yeah.
But in hockey, you're always told to, tough it out, and there's a growing up that has to happen in a lot of this game. I think we're starting to see that in a lot of areas here.
It's definitely going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, that is.
More people are going to start talking, and it could get ugly. But
which Jupe is okay. It's okay for these stories to be told. Like these are real things that people should. But
what I'm saying, it's going to get ugly. You look at the Blackhawks right now.
And you know what? I think that's good for the game. When
I hope so, but
the game gets cleaned up and people are held accountable. I think that's.
But the thing is, how often are teams held accountable for anything, Reeves?
I think they should be held more accountable. They
look
feel
at the
like
Houston Astros. They cheated, and they kept their World Series. I mean, the league is just not.
They got caught.
They got caught.
They got caught. I would be willing to bet a lot of others have cheated and not gotten caught.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is, they got caught and they still kept their World Series. That's vacated. You know what? They don't deserve it.
Yeah,
NCAA
do that. Yeah, anything you do like that is semantics, right? Does it change the fact that they celebrated, that they got rings, that they? I'm torn. I don't know what the right answer is on how you approach those kind of things after the fact.
But will the Chicago Blackhawks be penalized seriously if they knew all this stuff was going on, which they did as an organization? I mean, will they truly be punished? Like saying, you know what, you're done for this year, or your playoffs?
They won't be punished. Like Scott Wheeler had the best tweet ever. He's just like, the Arizona Coyotes did extra combine testing and lost draft picks, the Blackhawks lost the equivalent of one game's revenue for what they did with Kyle. That just shows you everything that the owners value right there. The competitive advantage of extra scouting, draft pick. Maybe destroying someone's life, one day's revenue.
Which just shows you they're not serious about any of this.
And Bettman works for the owners.
Yeah.
He doesn't work for the fans. He doesn't work for the games. He doesn't work for the fans. He doesn't work for the population. He works for the owners. And so if he thought the owners wanted them to penalize the Blackhawks more competitively, he would have done it. But that's not what the owners think. So that's not what he did. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep going down.
No, I know.
At the end of our podcast, because I realize I probably have 10 minutes left. I don't know, Todd, how are you doing?
I'm ready to go to bed.
We gotta find a different topic to end on than ethics of the NHL and locker rooms, because that's not very fun.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You got any whiskey to finish off your?
I don't. This a barrel aged Surly Darkness bottle is good for me.
Come on, focus. There we go.
That's a good amount, as the Rube would know. This is a good beverage for one person to have for all they're gonna have.
What's the alcohol percentage on that?
It's like 14. It's like a bottle of wine.
Todd will know this. What's the overall Badger Gopher record?
Well, now I don't know because I had my life.
Just add one more win to the Gophers.
It's 177, 99, and 24. So the Gophers have a hefty advantage of 78 games over Bucky.
There you go.
Yep.
About to be 2 more games.
I mean, I think so. I mean, Todd, you watch your team more closely than I watch them. I watched the Gophers pretty tight, and they got a lot better this last weekend. The team I saw play this last 2 games, even though they tried to give it away on Saturday with some penalties and things, if they were playing a less disciplined team, they probably would have got away with it easier. But when you're playing Notre Dame, and for whatever reason the refs aren't calling any penalties on Notre Dame, it's going to be a game like that.
Well, that's history, right? I mean,
right.
Just don't call penalties on Notre Dame. I mean, that's been proven by data, I think, right?
Yeah, Jeff Jackson, he must sweet talk them so nicely that they love him. I know your coach, on the other hand, does not have the
not a friendly relationship with a lot of referees in the Big Ten.
A lot of referees do not say the guy behind the Wisconsin bench is their best friend.
Yeah, but they also are not always fond of Mr. Motzko either, Viggs.
They're not, but I do think
they're not.
Maybe the 2 least
I've heard
coaches in the Big Ten are coming to town this weekend in Madison. Right?
Makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Makes it interesting.
Would you guys like to see the officials have a name or a number on their jerseys in the Big Ten?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would like one of them to be available to a pool reporter after every game where there's a controversial call.
Yeah.
Just so we know what they were thinking or saw or wanted to tell people.
Yeah, which the pro leagues have gotten a lot better at that. I don't think the NHL necessarily has, but MLB and NBA do that pretty regularly.
Yeah. It's smart.
We get some off the record stuff.
Yes.
We do get, a lot of times they're at Maxwell's after the game.
I mean, I've had games where I call Steve Piotrowski after, sometimes during the game and say, what happened here? Why, I don't remember what it was, but it was a game at Ohio State a couple of years ago. And, it was something that, I don't think he could really explain very well. He took the fall for the referee that kind of blew something, but, he gave me something to use anyway. So,
well, and I think everyone has to understand that the referee doesn't have the TV angle live.
Right.
It's very different. I hate reffing. Like, hate it. Like when I'm coaching and I have to be the ref, I don't like doing it because it's always pretty fine about where your line is and what you're going to draw and how it impacts everything. And it's just so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And a lot of people just don't realize that these are hockey guys.
Mm-hmm.
They love the sport.
Yep.
They love they talk with the players. And like I said, if you do talk with them after a game, a lot of times they will explain, hey, I did this for this reason, this reason, this reason. They're not media savvy. They're talking to us off the record and things like that, just BSing back and forth. These guys love the game. They played it up to a certain level.
And they put up with a lot of flack to
do.
do it too. I'm
They
sure
do.
they not only from the fans, but I'm sure like their families.
Yeah,
And being a college ref is not easy.
And
travel and time.
Yeah, and you're putting a lot on the line too, because if you get hurt, that's you're not covered by anything unless you have a supplemental insurance policy of your own. Like the Big Ten doesn't have any insurance on referees; they're independent contractors, and I think it's the same way for all the leagues. And that's a rough way to be living in a lot of ways.
It was Shep was it over 10 years ago or 15 years ago, pulled their names off the backs. Papa Shep was just like, we don't need them yelling. Yeah, people could find out.
Well, it's interesting. The NCHC has like bios and numbers.
Yep.
And like they tell you like how many years experience these refs have, like what are the best games they've reffed. It's pretty transparent over there. And I'm like,
yeah, but we don't have a Big Ten really.
We don't have a Josh Fenton in the Big Ten.
No.
Which is frustrating. Like the guy who's in charge of the Big Ten is a wrestler for hockey, right?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore?
No.
Who is?
So, as I understand it, Adam Augustine is taking on more of a administrative role for hockey.
So he's not just communications; he's doing more.
He's more on the administrative side now. Red Berenson is the conduit between the coaches and the league office, and represents the league in a lot of commissioners level meetings.
That's very different than a young Josh Fenton doing the same job.
Yes, it is.
It'd be like having Lou Nanny do the job for the Big Ten almost.
I think, which offers some weight, some gravitas in meetings among top
coaches,
people
and officials, right. Yeah,
but probably doesn't do you a lot of good when you're talking about social media initiative.
Well, and effort, outreach, and engagement. Like how much is he going to invest into this job? Maybe I don't even know if he's probably getting paid, but
I've heard that he does a pretty fair amount of work on it.
Okay. I've not seen Reddit Mary Cheerino.
But it's all behind. Yeah, it's all behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, that's the thing. They don't have anyone getting out there in front of cameras or the media or just saying.
Yet we do see Piotrowski a couple times a year.
Sure,
we see Piotrowski. Josh Fenton is like at every weekend he's at a game.
Mm-hmm.
Every big event. Josh is there. He makes time for the media. He asks people, is like, hey, if you need me, just let me know. I can set aside some time. He's very engaged.
Yeah. And I get the impression that that's what they're not going to be able to find that right away. But with Adam Augustine, they think like that's because Adam's a hockey guy. He gets it. He knows what this is all about. Plus, he's got the background of being a Big Ten guy too. So if you put those two together, that's maybe as good as you can get out of the Big Ten situation right now for hockey. But you're always under that larger umbrella of, small fish, big pond with big
don't get me started on that.
I mean, if I was like Kevin Warren and I wanted to make like a big shaker move, I'd be like, all right, Josh, what does the NCHC pay you?
Yeah.
I will increase that by 50%. Do what you did for that league for my league. I'm not going to give you an unlimited pocketbook, but
he would. I'd be interested to know how what he'd be able to do with that, because
his hands would be tied all the time.
On TV, yeah, there would be a much different approach.
More games on TV.
NCHC only has like 12 games on CBS anyway,
and
they are a streaming league for the most part.
For them, essentially.
Yeah.
But there's been arguments between Big Ten people on, how we want, hockey wants more games on TV, obviously.
Right.
So they had to do X, Y, and Z to even get the games that they have on now. Now they want these games shorter so that they fit in a 2-hour window, which, luckily enough, they've been able to do these last couple of years.
I kind of like it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Especially when you go into going to St. Cloud, where they still have 15-minute intermissions and take 3 TV timeouts a period. It's like, oh my God, it feels so long.
Yeah.
What Big Ten games have been. I just don't know. There would have to be a lot of bending done somewhere in the Big Ten that is not used to bending.
I just think that those are different conversations, though, than I just want games on TV.
Yeah.
I want people who do interactions with the teams to stay updated during the week. Like the Big Ten Star of the Week Instagram videos this week. I'm expecting maybe a highlight or something, and it's just one 15-second cinematic save, and it could have been during warm-ups. I have no idea. And that's what they use for Star of the Week.
Yeah.
It's oh my God, just invest the time to go into the stream, pull some clips, overlay the home team play-by-play guy doing audio for it. If you don't like the audio from the TV broadcast or the student or whoever's doing it, it's there's a level of professionalism that the NCHC somehow hits with whatever budget they have that the Big Ten doesn't even try. So,
yeah, and it's
soapbox
with the amount of content Big Ten has and the resources with the
resources that they have.
Yeah,
if you give me $100,000 salary and $100,000 to spend on production. I feel like I probably could come somewhat close to what the NCHC does. But they're not even willing to do that. So, I don't know. Complicated.
All right, guys. We're pushing midnight here.
I know.
Isn't that what we always do?
Yeah, that's what we do.
That's what we do.
I wanted to get off the Blackhawks thing so we could get into a couple other things.
Better.
Which was good, I thought.
And talking about Big Ten hockey.
Yes.
From 1935.
Old-time hockey. Well, Todd, appreciate it. I will see you at the rink later in the year.
Love it.
Wish I could be there this weekend, but can't do it.
It's all right.
All right.
I'll hold the spot for you.
We'll catch up with you at Mariucci.
Maybe I could travel to Madison this year. If something happens. We'll see.
Let me know.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for staying tuned for overtime. All right.